always, thank you to the Friends of the Rogers Public Library who sponsor these programs. And a quick reminder that next month is December, and we almost always do things a little bit differently in December because everyone's so busy with the holidays. So this month we will be doing a cookie exchange. We last tried that for Lunch and Learn about 10 years ago, and it went over real well, so I'm going to try it again. I'd appreciate it if you're interested, that you sign up or ask for an email, just because I want to get a rough head count so I know how many bags and stuff that I need to supply so people can get their cookies. And if you decide to participate, make 3-4 dozen of your favorite cookie and bring in copies of the recipe. If you don't want to make your own copies, just bring them to the information desk and we'll make the copies for you, no charge. Okay? And with no further ado, Anna Heckmann of Turtle Shire Rehabilitation?
Yes, Turtle Shire Rehabilitation Center.
Yes, is going to tell us all about turtles of Northwest Arkansas, and I am really pumped to hear about this.
Thank you so much. My name is Anna Heckmann. I am the founder and operator of Turtle Shire Rehabilitation Center, which is a turtle rescue based in Northwest Arkansas. We take in injured turtles and rehabilitate them and then release them back into the environment when they are ready. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do, and then we'll follow up with some turtle facts. So life as a rehabilitator is always very busy. I work out of my apartment because that's the only space I have, and I have a full-time job as well that supports myself and also the turtles. The center operates entirely on donations to our GoFundMe, and largely due to the generosity of the people who find the turtles. We're currently in the process of getting registered as a 501c3 so that we can accept tax-deductible donations and apply for grants. So you might be wondering, well, this is a turtle presentation, so where are all the turtles? Well, the turtles that we work with are wild animals, and they're also injured. And so we want to keep them in a place that's good for them, in a place that's quiet and calm and natural for them. If you imagine if you were feeling poorly and someone the size of Godzilla came and poked and prodded at you, that probably wouldn't help you feel any better. So we want to give our turtles the same consideration. All the same, I'm going to introduce to you our current patients, which are spending the winter with us. This is Muskie. He is a musk turtle, and family found him in the river with his leg tangled in a net. At 4 inches long, he is full grown. And the leg had to be amputated, but it's healing up nicely. And now he's staying with us until spring. This is Tom. He is an adult male red-eared slider. Tom was the victim of a dog attack. He is healing up nicely, and as an adult male, Tom has lost the red coloring on the side of his neck. This is Crush. Crush is a 3-toed box turtle found on the side of the road, bleeding profusely with a broken jaw. But Crush is all better now. I woke him up from a nap to take this picture. He was not happy about it. This is Lux. She was found in someone's backyard with a big crack in her shell. You can still see the crack there. It's all healed up now, and she's overwintering with us until she's ready to go home. This is Terry. You can still see the crack in his shell up there. It's all healed. He has a healthy fear of humans, which is something we like to maintain in our turtles because they are wild animals. And he refused to come out for the picture, which is something that we like to see. This is Caesar, our star patient. Caesar was hit by a car. He almost died. He did not eat for a month. And I thought he wasn't going to make it, but here he is, smiling and making up for lost time by eating lots and lots of worms. So first let's talk about why we should care about turtles. They're cute, they're adorable, and they're very unique, but they're also very important to the ecosystem. We have water turtles, like red-eared sliders, we have musk turtles, and we have snapping turtles, and these eat dead animals and dead debris, and they help keep our waterways and our rivers clean. Box turtles eat seeds and distribute them in their poop, which is very important, and they also control the worm population and the insect population. And all turtles contribute to nutrient cycling and composting by eating various greenery and pooping it out in other places. And of course, they act as a food source for other animals. And the most important thing is that all turtles are able to reproduce and make more turtles to keep on doing these jobs. So how does the rescue process work? Well, first somebody finds an injured turtle, then they call or text me, and I will typically ask them for pictures and their location, and then I assess to see if there's anything I can do to help the turtle. Sometimes the wound is already healed over, so you have to just assess that and say, well, there's nothing I can do for this turtle right now. Then we meet up and I get the turtle from them. Sometimes I have to drive a long way, and sometimes the other person drives a long way. I've had people come from Little Rock with turtles that needed help. Then I get to work on the turtle, and it stays with me while it's being rehabilitated. If the injury is especially bad, it'll stay with me over winter. And then we get together with the person who rescued the turtle and they take it back to where they found it. First of all, I work very closely with 3 veterinarians, with Dr. France at Pea Ridge Vet Clinic, with Dr. Stropes at Crossover Vet Clinic, and with Dr. Irby at Weddington Animal Hospital. And these vets help with any cases that I'm not sure about. They'll answer questions, they prescribe all the medication, and if the turtles need x-rays or surgery, they will help with that as well for a discounted rate. The first thing I do when I get a turtle is triage, and I ask myself, can I help this turtle? All turtles fall into one of 4 categories. First, turtles that I can help myself. These involve turtles with clean shell breaks and minimally contaminated wounds. Second, turtles that I can treat with the vet's help. These involve turtles that might need anesthesia or surgery, or maybe they need their jaws wired back together. Third, turtles that have less of a chance of survival, but that my vet and I are willing to work on together. And fourth, turtles that need to be euthanized. Sometimes this really is the kindest option, and as rehabilitators, it's important that we are able to let go of our feelings and do what's best for the turtle. So once I've determined whether I can treat the turtle myself, I move into documentation and stabilization. Each turtle that enters the rehab receives a name and a number, and the name is usually chosen by the rescuer, and it's something that I use to keep track of the turtle, especially when we have a social media presence for each individual turtle. They go by their name. And I record the turtle's weight, I record its length, where it was found, who found it, and the contact information for those individuals. Because all this information could be required by the State Department of Game and Fish, and so it's good to have that handy. Once I've determined, then I can stabilize. I check the airway to make sure that it's not blocked. You can see a picture of the turtle's airway right there. That's the glottis behind the tongue. And I have to check that to make sure it's not blocked by debris, or maybe it's be blocked by blood if the turtle is bleeding. I control bleeding next with appropriate dressing and pressure, and I administer pain medication if the turtle needs pain medication. And then I treat shock. Shock is a very serious medical condition that could result in death, and it results from decreased blood flow to major organs. So what I do for that is I warm the turtle and I hydrate them. And in person, we would put an IV needle into their arm. And so similarly, for a turtle, I use a similar fluid and I inject it into the soft tissue behind their leg, and then the rest of their tissues soak it up. And I also put the turtle under a heat lamp, because turtles have preferred optimal temperature zones, which is basically a temperature at which the turtle operates best. Turtles cannot make their own body heat the way that mammals can, so we have to provide that for them. And when we put them under the heat lamp, that's warming them up so they can metabolize the fluids and they can metabolize the medication, because a cold turtle will not be able to do anything with anything that you put in it. It's like a machine that will only work if it's warm. Then I leave the turtle alone overnight to rest and adjust and de-stress. Stressors to wild turtles include being handled by humans, being viewed by humans, in fact, include pain and noise. Anything that's unnatural, that's different from their normal environment, could be considered a stressor. And stress is very dangerous for wild turtles. They can die of stress because it can interfere with the healing process, and it will also interfere with sending of blood to major organs. So what I have here is I have a picture of one of my hospital bins. Turtles know what they need, so it's important to give them choices. I have up there in the top left-hand corner, that's a wet hide. If the turtle finds that it needs humidity, it'll go hide in the wet hide. There's a dry hide in the upper right-hand corner. There's some water if the turtle decides it's thirsty, and one end of the bin is warmer than the other, so the turtle can self-regulate its own temperature. All right, well, from this point forward, there will be some pictures with blood in them, and I've tried to keep it to a minimum. But in order to show you what I do at Turtle Shire, I'm going to have to show you a little bit of wounds. So if you're interested in not seeing blood, you can close your eyes, and I will let you know when those slides are over. It might be a little while, but I will be sure to let you know. Wound management is one of the most important parts of the healing process, because if wounds are managed improperly, this will lead to poor healing for the rest of the turtle. It causes ineffective healing and ineffective rehabilitation. So how a wound is treated depends on several things. It depends on the age of the wound, the contamination level, and the amount of exudate, which is stuff that's coming out of the wound. The way I treat the wound will change as the wound heals. Next, I administer medication. All medications are prescribed by a veterinarian, and the most common medications I use are painkillers and antibiotics. Recall how I was saying that turtles have to be warm and hydrated in order to metabolize their medication. Well, I have to make sure they're warm and hydrated at this step too. And I'd like to make a note of antibiotics. A lot of rehabilitators tend to overuse antibiotics. And it's important to note that there are some downsides to giving antibiotics to a turtle. You shouldn't give them to every turtle that you see, because they can place a lot of stress on the turtle system. There's some side effects you have to worry about, like a decreased appetite, upset stomach, diarrhea, all things that could interfere with the natural healing process. So I only give antibiotics to a turtle with a highly contaminated wound, like the one on the left, or a dog bite, like the one on the right, because dog bites always contain bacteria. Then I continue to treat the turtle until it's healed. Long-term patients are transferred to these naturalized enclosures. There's a substrate made of leaf litter and organic material. I have the dry hide box. I have some greenery. Turtles love to hide under greenery. And of course, as always, it has access to some water. Shell damage. A lot of people think of shell damage when they think of healing a turtle, but it's important not to get caught up in the drama, because while shell damage is something that is fun to repair, because it's very gratifying to watch, you have to make sure that the inside of the turtle is healed before you start closing up the outside. And that is Caesar there, the one who didn't eat for a month. You can see his organs protruding from the side there, but we tucked it all back in, gave him some medication, and sealed up the side. Now he's gnawing on worms. So I'm going to show you some images of shells that have been damaged and then put back together. This is Edgar. Edgar was hit by a car. He was found on the side of the road. And here's his before and after pictures. To repair shell fractures, I use a high-tech version of cutting-edge technology involving zip ties, foil tape, and super glue. It looks easy, but it takes a practiced eye to pull the shell together correctly and match the fractures up. So don't try it at home. Make sure you contact a licensed rehabilitator, because it's a lot harder than it looks. In this situation, I used foil tape, super glue, bra hooks, and wire to reattach the fragments. You always have to get inventive with materials. Sometimes shell fragments escape into the body cavity of the turtle and they have to be removed with tweezers. Like in this case, I was able to get the shell fragment out of that hole and tape it right back together where it should be. Here is another example of my high-tech method at work. And aside from shell injuries, we also take before and after photos of every turtle that comes through the rehab. So here's just a few of our more recent residents. This is Waddles. He came to us with necrotic legs, so we scraped out the tissue, applied some medication, and he was just fine. Gunner came with a respiratory infection. When turtles have respiratory infections, their eyes swell up and they blow bubbles through their nose. And the treatment involves lots of warmth and humidity, naps on worn moss, and a lot of rest. A turtle shell is living bone and it's covered with a layer of keratin scutes. Somehow, Lucy lost a lot of her scutes, but luckily she was able to come to Turtle Shire. We took her to the vet, and the black that you see in the picture on the right, that's her scutes regrowing and regenerating. Feisty was a victim of a dog bite. You can see the bone tissue regenerating in the picture on the right. And Muskie's leg was tangled up in a net. I showed you a picture of Muskie earlier, but it was amputated and it's healing beautifully. Fortunately for Daisy, all the pieces of her shell were found when she was found on the side of the road. And just look at that sweet little smile. Isn't she precious? Tom has shown dramatic improvement since he was mauled by a dog. The missing shell will not grow back, but the underlying tissue will harden to a skin-like texture. And that's it. No more blood. Safe to look up now. So you might be asking yourself, well, how can I become a wildlife rehabilitator? First, I'll tell you how I get started, and then I'll tell you what to do next. In 2019, I found a woman named Joyce Hicks who lived in Bella Vista, who had her own turtle rehabilitation center called the Northwest Arkansas Turtle Rehabilitation Center. And I contacted her, I brought her a turtle, I asked her to train me, and then after bringing her 3 more turtles and a donation of mulch and towels, she finally agreed. I was so happy. And she took me on as her apprentice, so I've trained under her for 2 years, and then she retired, and I've taken on all the turtle rehabilitation in the area. So what all is involved? Well, first you have to find somebody to train you. If you're interested in becoming a rehabber, please speak to me. There's always more turtles that need help, and I'm always looking for more apprentices. Secondly, you will apply as an apprentice with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. This involves getting a letter from the city lawyer stating that you won't be breaking any laws, and you also have to get a vet to sign up on your application that will say that he'll help you with anything that you might need help with. Then you complete your 2-year apprenticeship, and after that you apply for your general class wildlife permit, and then you can help turtles on your own. There are some laws and regulations that you'll have to abide by. For example, you cannot take wild turtles across state lines. This means that if someone in Missouri or Oklahoma calls you with information about a turtle, you can't go over there and you can't bring the turtle back, but you can tell that person what they can do to help the turtle. You can't transfer turtles to your volunteers, and you can never take a wild turtle to be a pet. Wild animals need to stay wild. You have to be prepared for some lifestyle changes. For example, you're going to have to be comfortable with euthanasia. Sometimes that is the kindest option. It's important to put aside your own feelings and do what's best for the turtle. I always like to burn a candle when I take a turtle to be euthanized because it just helps me let go. So you're going to need to find something like that that will help you with euthanasia. You'll have to put your mental health first. This is very difficult because there's always more turtles than I can help. But the turtles rely on me for everything. So if I'm not healthy, then they're the ones that are going to suffer, and I have to keep that in mind. And you're going to have to spend some of your own money on vet visits and supplies and medication. So be sure that you have a little bit of disposable income set aside for that. So what if you want to be involved but you don't have time or resources to be an apprentice? Well, there's plenty of ways to get involved. First of all, spread the word, because the more people that know about Turtle Shire, the more turtles we can save. Secondly, you can donate to our GoFundMe. There's the link right there. You can buy the turtles a gift from their Amazon wish list. I have it linked on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/TurtleShire. And I don't accept a lot of volunteers because I work out of my apartment, which is the only space I have. And I don't like a lot of people coming and going in my apartment. But if you are interested in volunteering, I do need people to pick up turtles sometimes during the middle of the day or take them to the vet. Transportation is a big need. Because I work a full-time job, I often can't do those things, and so I need volunteers to do that. And that's all I have about Turtle Shire, but I do have some turtle facts for you guys. First of all, how many people have heard this? Turtles can breathe out of their butts. Lots of little children tell me that. Did you know turtles can breathe out of their butts? Who thinks it's true? Who thinks it's false? Oh, you guys are right. It's absolutely false. A turtle's butt is not a lung or a straw. There is one species of turtle that can do some gas exchange through the area around its anus, but no turtles can breathe through their butts. What about this one? Turtle shells cannot feel anything. Who says true? Who says false? Oh, once again, you are all right. Turtles can feel through their shells. A turtle's shell is over 50 bones with blood vessels and nerves running right through it. So they can feel that stuff. What about this? Turtles can come out of their shells. Who says true? Who says false? Oh, you guys are so smart. Yes, turtles cannot come out of their shells. In fact, turtles are their shells. The shell is modified ribs, the bones are attached, the skin is attached, and I've shown you a picture on the right what a person would look like if it had a similar thing going on. Your ribs would be enlarged and your entire body would be attached to it. That's the thing about turtles. What about this? Who thinks it's harmful to paint a turtle shell? Who thinks it's not harmful? It is actually very harmful to paint a turtle's shell because the turtles need that vitamin D from the sun, and if they don't get that, if there's paint blocking that, they will develop metabolic bone disease and die. A painted shell is a death sentence for a turtle. And this is a turtle that I got in one day, and I had to use some nail polish remover, scrubbing it a little bit at a time to get that paint off. So if you find a turtle with paint on its shell, the choice is, between a toxic solvent to get it off or certain death. And so you've got to choose the toxic solvent. Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. What if you just painted a little bit of the shell?
That's still a bad thing that you shouldn't do because the paint does have toxic materials in it. But yeah, the shell is porous. Yes, it would be as though you were painting your own bone.
It's like a tattoo on your arm.
Oh, it is actually. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. But painting a small portion is certainly much better than painting a large portion. But you probably shouldn't paint turtles at all. Yes, ma'am.
So how do people who do turtle counts for, scientists, how do they mark them?
So different scientists use different methods. Some scientists will put some kind of biodegradable marker on the back of the turtle, just like put a number on it. What I do is I definitely try to use Scotch tape and masking tape and on those. And also people who track turtles are starting to use microchips now. And that's not harmful to the turtle shell either.
Okay. I put fingernail polish on to tell them apart. I got 5 of them in the yard.
That's a lot of turtles. Wow. Yeah. No, if you need to put just like a small identifying mark on a turtle, that's fine. But just don't paint the whole turtle shell. As long as they can get, they can get all their vitamin D that they need, and yeah.
But sometimes I won't see one for a year. And
Well,
then it shows up, and then
yeah, turtles love to dig. They will stay buried for months, just enjoying the cool dark and the humidity of the soil. They love to dig. Yeah, so once I recall that I went over to my mentor Joyce's house, and I was, looking at all the turtles in her flower beds, and I saw this little turtle booty sticking up out of the soil. And I came back 3 months later, and that turtle booty was still there. Any other questions? Not yet? Okay. Well, I have some more myths for you. What about this one? Turtles stay in their same location most of their lives. Who says yes? Who says no? This is actually true. Turtles do not move naturally from within 1 square mile of where they were born. And if you relocate a turtle, it's going to spend the rest of its life stressed out looking for its home, trying to find where it lives. And here's a good analogy. If you see an old lady crossing the road who needs help, do you A, help her cross, stopping traffic if necessary, or B, put her in your car, drive her to the other end of town, and let her go in a pond because you think that's a better spot for her? It's a good analogy. What about this one? Turtles do not make noise. Who says true? Who says false? Oh, your turtle talked. What did it say?
Well, it grunted and made make different sounds depending on whether it liked the food or whether I was petting it or paying attention.
Yeah, turtles do make noise.
All sorts of different noises.
You just have to listen carefully. So I'm going to play a short segment, a 3-minute NPR special that just came out on November 3rd. These are new research findings.
Animals are famous for the sounds they make, birds and their songs, frogs and their words. But have you ever heard of a talkative turtle? Well, most turtles were thought to not make sounds at all until researchers went deep, as NPR's Laurel Wamsley reports. Do turtles talk? What about other lesser-known vertebrates? The answer is yes, according to a new paper in Nature Communications, presenting evidence that many species thought to be mute do in fact vocalize, and the researchers caught it on tape. Here's a southern New Guinea giant soft-shell turtle. And here's a Sicilian, a limbless amphibian that lives hidden underground. Gabriel Jurgovich Cohen is lead author of the paper and an evolutionary biologist working on his PhD at the University of Zurich. The project got started after he read about a turtle in the Amazon making sounds, and he started wondering about the little sounds his own pet tortoises make. He got in touch with a researcher at his former university in Brazil.
He developed a type of hydrophone, which is pretty much a microphone that goes on water. And I started recording my own pets, and I actually heard them making a lot of noises.
It was on. He traveled to 8 or 9 institutions in 5 countries on a quest to record animal species that were thought mostly to be mute. He recorded 50 kinds of turtles, as well as tuataras, Sicilians, and lungfish. And it turned out none of them were mute.
Actually, every single animal I recorded made sounds.
He says the findings point to a common ancestor some 400 million years ago. Neil Kelly is a paleontologist at Vanderbilt University.
Sometimes it's surprising how much we still don't know about things that aren't necessarily uncommon, but live alongside us.
Kelly says the paper's conclusion, mapping these vocalizations onto the evolutionary tree, makes sense. He notes there are unique challenges to studying animal sounds evolutionarily.
It's very hard to trace that in a fossil record, because sounds obviously don't fossilize, and those vocal equipment and soft tissue base.
And it's important to note that sound production and hearing are different things. Snakes, for example, are famous for their hissing sounds, but they aren't thought to be able to hear themselves or each other hissing. And a turtle making sounds doesn't necessarily mean that it's communicating that way, says John Weens, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Arizona.
I think there's some conflation of making sounds and acoustic communication.
Jurgovich Cohen says that while they aren't sure what all the sounds mean, they used several strategies to identify sounds used for communication, such as using cameras to correlate sounds with behaviors that could demonstrate some kind of intention. Weens says the recording of these sounds is an important step toward further understanding.
Yeah, you don't record these sounds and report them. There's no reason why anybody would study acoustic communication and get those things, right? You don't even know that they're making sounds.
The next step, he says, is figuring out what all these animals might actually be saying. Laurel Wamsley, NPR News.
And I have one more video for you. This is about a minute and a half long.
Rector tortoise. Tortoise making sound. Growling tortoise. Salcata tortoise stretching from the earth. Deep mating sound from Salcata tortoise. Hissing tortoise. Turtle, very making sound. Growling, growling. High-pitched sound when mating. Hissing. Sarcata tortoise with a cold. Happy tortoise sound. Red ear spider. Quickie for mate.
So turtles do make noise. Just gotta listen carefully. And what about this one? Male box turtles have red eyes and females have brown eyes. How many people have heard this? Yeah, I read this in a veterinary school textbook. And then I got a turtle with red eyes. I thought this is a male. I took it to get an x-ray and there were eggs inside. So, not a male. And finally, what if you want a pet turtle? Well, here are some things to do. First of all, realize that it could be a commitment of up to 50 years or more. Turtles live a very, very long time.
Big shot.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put them in your will. And they're not gonna be small forever, so you're gonna need to expand your accommodations, especially red-eared sliders can get up to a foot long. You're going to need to research very carefully the appropriate setup. Lighting and heat are especially important for reptiles and turtles in particular. You can look for a rescue turtle instead of buying one. You can look on Facebook Marketplace. There are rehoming groups on Facebook where you can find turtles. Sometimes people list their unwanted pets on Craigslist, or you could talk to a vet, or you could talk to me. A lot of people contact me and want to give me their pets. Unfortunately, I don't have room for that. I'm only able to take wild turtles. But sometimes I know of people who are trying to give up their pets, so if you're interested, you could give me a call. And that's all I have for now. Are there any questions? Yes, in the back.
I had a friend who had a pet turtle named Big Shot. And Big Shot lived to be somewhere around 50.
Yeah.
But they used to put him up in the attic in the winter for a month or two.
That's
Is
not
that-
a good idea.
I don't know why they did it. And then they bring him down
No.
and give him water and flies and things.
Well, they probably thought they were trying to help him hibernate, but turtles need to hibernate on their own. You give them dirt to dig in, you give them water to access, you give them food to eat before they go to sleep, and you have to give them a lot of logs and stuff that are buried underneath where they're going to be hibernating, a lot of leaves on top for insulation during the cold winter months. Yeah, putting a turtle in an attic is not a good idea.
I don't know why they did
Yeah.
it, it's just, they did it.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. Never heard of such a thing. Yes.
A turtle that's been raised in a pet, what would happen if you just said, well, I don't want to take care of it anymore and put it out in the wild?
It would die.
It would, so they don't have instinctual.
They do, but only if they're raised in the wild. So if a turtle that's raised as a pet is going to seek out humans, it's not going to have a healthy fear of humans, and it may not recognize wild food because it's been fed, pellets or hand-fed, little bloodworms or something its whole life. It may not recognize other things as food. Anything else? Yes.
Okay, I also listened to NPR, and they had another thing about turtles just a couple of weeks ago, where they were talking about endangered turtles, and they said they did not know if wild turtles were actually endangered because they don't have any way to count them.
That is an excellent point. You cannot count endangered animals because you can't see them all. And one thing that happens sometimes in biology is you'll think something's extinct and then somebody sees one and, oh, well, I guess it's not extinct. So all you can do is count the relative abundance that you can see. And obviously, if we count the number of chicken turtles and it's large, and then we go back 10 years later into the same area and count a very small number, we can assume that something's happening to them and that the number of chicken turtles has decreased. But yeah, it's something you can't go out and count every single animal because you're not going to find them all. I'll have to listen to that. It's very interesting. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Who's the cat?
That is my cat Loki.
Okay.
He loves to watch the turtles.
That's all he does to watch.
Oh, well, while I'm there.
Name like Loki.
No, he's named Loki for a reason, let me tell you. But the door to the turtle room securely closes and he has no thumbs, so he can't open it. Yet, he probably will grow thumbs and become Marvel superhero, who knows?
He's cute.
Isn't he? That's why he stays in the house, not on the street. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
When we first moved here, we lived by the lake.
Mhm.
We had turtles, and Fred always felt sorry for them, didn't know what to do with them, so he put them down by the water, but they were angry with him. They did not like the water.
What kind of turtles were they?
They just crawled back up the hill.
What kind of turtles, she said.
Oh.
Here's a
I'll-
picture.
I'll show you.
Okay, yeah.
Huh?
Well, a lot of the time too, turtles, depending on what kind of turtle it is, water turtles don't spend all their time in the water. They might crawl up on land to bask, or especially the females laying their eggs, they need to crawl a ways from the water before they make a nest there. Yes,
Are there any turtle clubs in Northwest Arkansas?
not that I know of. Not that I know of, no. All right, well, thank you guys so much. This has been a pleasure.